Hello everyone, welcome to Week 10 demo. This video will include the Week 10 demo and the lab for Week 10 as well. Today's topic is filters. The code that we will talk about is literally Week 9 demo, but we have updated the database and added more, like 2 more JSP pages. Now, the first thing for Week 10 demo, we added this table called role. And role table will be as a foreign key inside the user. Like in this case now, our user, it could be either an admin or it could be either a normal user. And therefore, you can see that here. If it's equal to 1, that means he's an admin. If it's equal to 2, then he is a normal user. And we added 2 simple JSP pages, one for admin. This page should only be seen by admins only. And this one, login page. This login page is like it's going to ask for input, and it's going to send the input data for this to the login servlet. And the login servlet has 2 methods, do get and do post. Now, if you are sending that, if you go back to the login.jsp, you will see that the form is sending that to the login and the method is post. That means here we are calling this method and we are checking the email and password. Remember that we don't check the email and password here. We use the account service, and then the account service, they use the login method. We give them the email and password, and then the account service go to the database service. And you can see that here. This is the service, account service. What they do, they just go to the user DB and they say, okay, give me that email. And then they see, okay, like they're getting that user by email. And then they see if the password is equal to the password that entered. That means he is a valid user. Now, when we return back to that page, to account service does nothing. They just return it true. If the user is true, then we go back to the login servlet in the do post. And let's say that the user is null. If user is null, I'm going to say, okay, wait a second. I'm just asking you to go back to login.jsp because you have entered invalid data. However, if it's a valid, then I'm going to create a session and this session going to contain the email. And that's everything right now. Let's just run the application. And let's just copy some data from here. Okay, let's take this one. Yeah, let's take the admin, and his password is password. Password. And if we say sign in, and yeah, we are now inside the admin page. As you can see, we are inside the admin page. Let's log out and let's go with Anne, and let's say here password. And now we are inside logged in and we are as Anne. This is the owner of these nodes, and we can say log out. Okay, now there is something interesting here, which if I just change login to admin, as you can see now, I can see the admin page, even though like I'm not logged in. What's the reason? And I can even say note, and I can go to the note page and I can see Barb's note, for example. There is no security for this. I'm not checking if this username and password, for example, here, if I go to the node servlet, if you are asking me as a do get method, there is no security anymore. Now, if you want to compare this with the previous lab where we were checking if this user valid or invalid in each method, yes, here we are not doing that. Therefore, there is something missing, and I'm able to see any page that I'm looking for. Now, how can I protect these servlets? For example, here, if we go to this, I have login servlet, node servlet, and admin servlet. Now, what we are doing right now, we are sending a request. Okay, just make it like this. Okay, and we are sending a request. And this request is either going to go to the login servlet, to the node servlet, or to the admin servlet. And based on this request, I'm going to get a JSP as a return value. However, right now, there's a problem. If I send a request to the node servlet, there is nothing protecting the node servlet, and there is nothing protecting the admin servlet, and there is nothing protecting the login servlet. Now, you might be saying, okay, we can add exactly what we have done here in the previous week in lab I think week 6 or week 5 when we did the login step by step. But right now we have a new way to do that. We can add a filter. Okay, we can introduce a filter here. And we can say, okay, this is a filter. We'll check if the request is a valid request or invalid request. Okay, we will have a filter, and we will have right now 2 types of request. Like, I'll just change the color. Okay, now I'm going to send the request no matter what's the color right now. I'm going to send the request. If the filter check that, okay, you are a valid user, then you can see, you can pass this request to the servlet. If you are sending a bad request, then the filter will reject that and ask you to go back from where you come. And therefore, the filter will be responsible for protecting these servlets. But right now we have a problem. The filter is protecting all servlets. And this doesn't make sense. For example, if you don't have an account on Facebook, does that mean you couldn't see the login servlet for Facebook? No, we can see that, and therefore we should be careful. Right now, we are protecting the node servlet and admin servlet. But for example, login servlet, anyone can see the login servlet. If you have a valid credential, if you have a username and a password, I'm gonna check that here, and then I see, okay, you can see the nodes, you can see the admin, and etc. But right now, for the login servlet, there is no need for filter. Now, how can I make filters? You just need to go here to the source package, right click and say that I need filter, go to other, and here type filter. Here we go. This is. Now here, make sure that you choose a name for this package. I'm going to name it as filters. Okay. And now what do we need? We can name it as authentication filter. Okay, and say next. Now here it's very important. First of all, please click on this to add this information to web.xml. This is first. Now here they will ask you, this filter will be applied to which servlet? First of all, delete this one. We don't need it. We don't need the world card to be masked. No, we just need to say, okay, I need the authentication filter to be linked to a servlet. And what servlet? I need it to be for node servlet, for example. Say, okay. And I need another one, authentication filter for the admin servlet. Say, okay. And right now, as you can see, I have placed a filter in front of the node servlet and admin servlet. Okay. And now let's say next. Say finish. And here we go. Now you will have a lot of code auto-generated here. We don't need any of that. You can safely delete everything that you have inside the class. Okay, inside the class, just delete everything up until the end. Then ask it to implement all abstract methods. And here we go. Just remove the implementation. Okay. And yep, I don't need that. Okay, the only method that we need is the do filter method. And if you have any question regarding that, please watch the recorded lecture regarding filters. And remember that we say that do filter accept 3 parameters: request, response, and chain. The request, I can do whatever I need to do with a request we normally do. But remember that we need to cast the request. And we need to cast the response, cast request and the response. Okay, we need to cast it because if you want to compare the request that we have here, the type of this request is called servlet request. But if I go to any servlet, the request that we usually do work with is called HTTP servlet request. Therefore, I need to convert the servlet request into HTTP servlet request. For example, if I want to work with that, let's work with it. And because right now, for example, if I just say request dot get session, there is no get session here. Therefore, I need to create the HTTP servlet request. I'm going to call it as rec, and here I'm going to pass request. Now, if you see that rec.getSession, it will return a session for you. Because remember here in the filter, the authentication filter, I'm going to take the session. I'm going to see the email. If there is an email, then you are a valid user. If there is no email, then you are invalid user. And therefore, as you can see now, I am able to see the sessions because I cast that. But remember here, I need to cast it 2 times here. Just do that. Like you need 2 parentheses here. Now, yeah, let's get the session. HTTP session equal request dot get session. Now, because we have the session, I can ask for the email. I can ask for the email. And I can say, okay, session dot get attribute. And here I will ask for the email. Now, now, if the email is equal null, because here we have 2, if email is equal null, that means it is invalid user, and I will ask you to go back to like I just want to say redirect you to the login page. Now, how can I do redirect? I just say response dot send redirect, and we don't have this method. Why we don't have it? If you just think about it, because we need to do HTTP servlet response this time. Okay, we can say it response, and now I can take that. I can say HTTP servlet response, and here we go. Now we have the response that we usually deal with, and I can say, okay, response dot send redirect, and remember that I need to send it back to the login page. Go back to login page, and I just say return to stop here. Okay, now what if the user, okay, in this case, user is invalid. Now, what if the user is valid? If the user is valid, I'm going to use the chain method that I have. I have a chain object and chain dot do filter, and here we go. Now, what do we mean by chain dot do filter? It's very simple. The filter going to contain an object called chain. And when I say chain dot do filter, they will do the filter. And if it's like everything is fine, they will pass that to the node servlet or to the admin servlet. Okay. And this is the like they will just take this request and response and send it to the corresponding servlet. You don't need to specify it. The filter knows if this is going to be go to the node servlet or to the admin servlet. Again, right now, if I just save it and let's go back here. Let's see if we solve that problem. If I, okay, let me just close that. And let's go to the admin page. Admin. We couldn't have been redirected to the login page. Let's go to the node. We couldn't do that again because we have a filter. And this is how, and by the way, like let's imagine now I have included a new servlet. Like this is, let's say here we have a new servlet. And if you need to add the functionality of having or securing this by filters, you can just expand the filter and make this filter protecting this new servlet. And by the way, you can edit the filter and work with it here from the web.xml. You can go to the source. You can either edit it from here, or you can go to filters, filter mapping, and you can start adding filters here or removing or editing. There is no problem. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about, this is for the lab. This is for the lab right now. Right now, let's go and see there is only one problem that you need to solve for your next lab, which is, for example, if you are going to use this email, this is a normal user. She is not an admin. Let's say password. And now, as you can see, I am in the home page. That's what we are expecting. But what if I say admin? Oh my God. I'm able to see the admin page, even though like right now, I am not the admin, which means I need to have another filter here. I need to have another filter, not for node, but just for the admin servlet. which means right now, if you send me a request, if you have a valid username and password, there's no problem. And you want to see the node servlet, okay, you can see the node servlet, there is no problem. Okay, now let's say that the same user, he's a normal user, he gave me a good username and password, he passed the first filter. In the second filter, he want to access the admin servlet. I check the username and password, and here, because his role is not equal to admin, his role is equal to normal user, his request gonna be read and it's gonna be rejected. And this is everything that you need to do. Very simple. I'm gonna give you some like hints here. You just need to go here, say that I'm looking for filter, name it, for example, role filter or admin filter, name it whatever you want, just go next. Now here, therefore, I am doing that in front of you because there's important thing. Remember, always you need to click on this. Now, as you can see, the filters should be in same order as we have them here right now. If you need the admin filter or the role filter to be after the authentication filter, you need to take that down. Okay, did you see that? We did take it down right now, and now the role filter comes after the authentication filter. Remember that we don't need the world card. I need to link it with a specific servlet, and therefore I could say edit. And now here say servlet, and I need this to be for admin. And say okay, say next, finish, and here we go. Now this is your next assignment. I'm gonna push this code as well to the GitHub. You can find it on my GitHub. And yeah, feel free to use it. And this is week 10 lab. It's very easy, by the way. Okay, have a good day.